Liam Henderson, but the past couple of games it kind of seems as if there's been a slight move away from that. Liam Henderson we haven't seen in a few weeks. Really just O'Connell, I think, is the only real youth player that has played any minutes.
Other than Denier, but he's also
he's not.
Well, McGregor's a regular starter now.
Yeah, that's true. But I think there was a few more. I just wonder, as Christian, as you're saying, about how he's maybe trying to decide where he's going to be between changing things the way he wants, or if he's trying to be more pragmatic. Do you think the introduction of youth and the youth development is possibly taking a back seat just now until he kind of gets more established as a Celtic manager?
Especially after that start, I think it is. It's easy to introduce youngsters when things are going well. I don't know. He might have had a look at the youth setup as well and see, what is the quality there as well. You guys probably know the quality there better than me, but he's probably and the fact that he's got a few lone players in as well, so he's have the buffer there as well. But then, if they do start consistently winning and they can rest a few players in the league, basically as well, you might see that more and more. But it's the whole, Deila's philosophy, also the whole way that Celtic is set up now is obviously, the point is to bring these kids through as well. So if they fit, they'll get their chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that youth was obviously on sort of Deila's mind when he came in as a way to sort of putting his plan into action without having to buy a whole load of people. I think once you get a couple of bad results, then you do have to maybe take stock and maybe make a slower transition to sort of put your plan into action, and that might be part of it. But I also suspect that maybe he's trying to protect them as well from the media and the fans, and sort of realises that actually this maybe isn't the time to sort of throw folk to the wolves, whereas he can count on the older players to take the stick and himself to take criticism and bring them in at perhaps a bit of a better time.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because they have been getting a lot of criticism, the players, but I mean some of it's deserved, but some of it's really undeserved. So if you are a youngster, you are really going to struggle. Just looking at how he played on Saturday, Chris, thoughts about Saturday?
I thought in the first half Celtic were really pretty good. I think, as has been a problem in a number of games this season, it's the fact that we've not been as clinical as we should be. McGregor and Commons, I think, sometimes were a bit greedy with the ball, took shots when they could have played players in.
So just to jump in, I watched the game in the pub, like Louis. We watched it in the same pub, which was a thrill. But McGregor was getting an awful lot of criticism. You, in fact, Louis, you didn't think he had a very good game yourself, did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't think he had a very good game. As you say, I thought he was greedy, and I didn't think he was. At the start of the game, I thought he was quite direct and showed glimpses of kind of what he can do. But other times he was frustrating me, to be honest. I think he was getting into good positions at times, but then not doing anything with it, or just making poor decisions. And I agree with what you're saying about Commons. And I've mentioned that before on the podcast. Is one of my worries with Commons is that he likes to score so much that as soon as he gets within 25 yards, I think he automatically tries to manufacture a shot for himself rather than anybody else. And that's my worry with new strikers coming in. I mean, Skepovic didn't really have many shooting opportunities. He would have had more if Commons had played him in the kind of final third, but he kept shooting himself, which is fine when he come off, but he's got to remember he's not a striker. We have other players now that we're hoping can kind of carry the goals.
Yeah, we had 16 shots on target, and I'll be honest with it, probably about 8 of them were from Commons.
See, the thing as well, you were talking about Skepovic. I mean, he wasn't particularly impressive, but I think a lot to do with that was the fact that Deila played a one striker up front at home, which we're not. I know he looks to get the wide players in to supplement the striker, but I do think that isolated Skepovic, and I don't know if Deila's attitude towards the game would allow him to play 2 strikers, but I think we would be able to see a lot more from him if we could do that.
I know that before the game, and I said this to Chris in the pub, before the game, Deila said that he saw Gudetti and Skepovic as a potential new partnership, which is the first time he's ever hinted at playing two up front. But I actually thought that, especially in the first half, that the playing one man up front and the 2 wide players, I think that is the best it has worked in a while. Dundee United, fair enough, Stokes had a good game that day, but I thought it worked well first half, especially early on when they were pressing hard and they were kind of really going for it. I thought it worked well, and Tonev looked as if he was doing well, but I know what you mean. That's my worry, is it can isolate that striker if he's not willing to move.
Yeah, I think you kind of get the feeling that, you know, Commons is in the team because he can score goals, but he isn't really in Deila's plans for the long term, perhaps. Especially if he was looking at playing a front pairing and then trying to have sort of wide men at the same time. I think it'd be hard to see how Commons would actually be a part of that, and I don't think he really fits in with, you know, his pressing game. But, you know, to take a bit of the heat off him, he was criticised heavily when he dropped him for the European match, and I think he realises that, you know, you had to put him in there, you know, just from the fans' reaction. And to give him his due, Commons he will get you goals. But I mean, I totally agree with your point, Louis, about when Commons gets the ball, scoring is what's on his mind. Whether it be if he picks up 40 yards from goal, he's going to run 10 yards and try and rattle it. And I don't really think Celtic should be counting on long shots effectively, although they're good long shots. But you know,
yeah. We've got a couple of questions, but we've literally just covered them. Brian Murray tweeted in, the high pressing game is gradually being adopted. Can Commons, although a very good player, be part of that system? Christian, from what you've seen of Chris Commons, do you think he could be part of that system that Deila's wanting to play?
Yeah, Chris Commons and high pressing. Commons, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's a funny one because where do you play him? Like in the 4-3-3 system, your wingers needs to be quick, they need to be run a lot, they need to press, they need to be fair.
Yeah.
And you can't really play him as the lone striker. Now, you can tuck him in front of Brown and Johansson and a bit behind the striker, and that's probably where he's best, and that's probably where he gets the ball about 25 yards and he turns and he twists and he's good at that and he looks for the goal. So, but he does become a little bit of a luxury player then, which is fine pretty much at home in any game for Celtic. But if you want to drill the system, if you want to be effective abroad and away, he needs to carry his weight in other ways as well. It almost seems a bit terrible saying, "Oh, he's got too much of an eye for a goal, so we can't have him in the team."
Yeah.
But it's just a way of, I don't think, I'm not a big stats person, but if you look at the stats of how many goals you're going to score if you shoot from 20 yards and further, it's so small as well. So it's about making the right decisions in the right areas.
I think that's absolutely key. Here's just another question we've got. It's from Jungle Jim. Do you think Ronnie will play to up front at any point? How will he accommodate all the forwards in the team? Because, I was going through, if we did play a 4-3-3, and obviously that's what his long-term plans are, we've got a lot of wingers, we've got a lot of strikers, we've got a lot of midfielders to fit essentially into two wide positions, a sitting role, a striker. Our squad's actually now, obviously we wanted to bring players in, but by bringing in 2 strikers, we've now got 4 to play in one position. Stokes was on the bench on Saturday ahead of Griffiths, who now think is going to go out on an emergency loan to Hibs. There's a rumours of that. Chris, just looking at the squad, we're really quite top heavy. I've actually got a question I kind of wrote down, and I'll come to Christian as well, and to you two as well. So we've signed Gudetti, Skepovic, Mubarak and Tonev. They're all attacking players, and we've got Denier. Do you think he's made a mistake by only signing one defensive player? Or is that going to be his? Is it just going to try and outscore people?
I think you touched on that the last time. Deila's mindset is to score more goals than the other team, and if he gets that going, that's fine in the league. That'll be interesting to watch. That'll be good to watch even. But in terms of at the back, I think we're a bit light at fullback on both sides. I think the fact that we've got Ambrose, Lou, talking about what Lou's been saying, I think the fact that we've been playing Ambrose at right back shows that we're a bit light there, and that's where I think that the problems will emerge as the season goes on. I think in terms of Europe, I think we'll be caught out down the flanks because of that. At centre half, as long as Denier and Van Dijk stay fit, I think that's a more than adequate front defensive pairing for the SPL, and I think they'll do okay in the Europa League. But in terms of if either of them are unfit, then we are a bit light. I think we could have troubles with, Lustig's got his injury worries, and I don't fancy Charlie Mulgrew at the back either. So I think we maybe could have got someone else in there just to kind of bolster the squad a bit. But I think where we're really missing a player is, I think, a real proper defensive midfielder who can protect the front, the back four, and start linking to the attack. I think if we had somebody that could play that role perfectly, I think that would make a huge difference to the team.
I think Beaton done quite well when he came on against Aberdeen, and he played more of that role.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think Beaton gets lost, and it seems to be that when he's on the pitch, you're not quite sure what role he's playing. But when he first played, especially in that tournament in Turkey, he done really well at kind of sitting a bit deeper, but he was very much linking play. He was always the spare man looking for the ball. But he was deep enough that he could protect things, and I think that's his best position, and I thought he'd done well against Aberdeen.
Yeah, and defending is obviously not just about the forward or the back either. As you say, I think the defensive midfielder position is key. Having Mulgrew there, and even in the central tree, is not good for you defensively. When we signed Badgett, some people reacted. I've called him a defensive forward. Now I don't know how much Badgett would play, but you need those in that system, in that winger system as well. 4-3-3, you need your wingers to do that dirty work back as well, and they need to track back, and they need to help the fullback, and they need to be close to them. So it's why you set up to play attacking football. A lot of it, your defending will rely so much on those three positions, or even four positions: the two central midfield and the two wingers.
Actually, just to get Berget. We've seen him, he's been in and out of the team, and we're not going to kid on, we don't know that much about him. Could you give us a bit of a brief kind of background and what he is and what his best position would be?
He's a funny one. He's 23, 24 now. About when he was 16, 17, he was signed by Udinese. So he, even before he played a tough flight game in Norway, so he was seen as and which is quite uncommon at that time. Even just 7-8 years ago for a Norwegian player to be picked up by them. And he's never really fulfilled that potential. Basically what you see him in the few games he's played now, that's basically what he does. I mean, well, that's a bit harsh, but if it's done what he's supposed to do well, he runs a lot, he works a lot. He's got little. He can do little flashes of things like you've done against England, in the 21s and those kind of things. But I think basically what you see now is what you get. He is more, for me, kind of like a Dirk Kuyt kind of type. He'll fit in the system and he'll work. I think he's got slight ideas above his station of how good he is technically, and he's not very effective in front of goal either. He's never been a great goal scorer in any level in Norway. So there's flashes there and it's hard work there, but I don't think there's something that's going to elevate you into success on a European stage at all. I think he was available, and Deila just played with him before, and he's like, yeah, that'll do for now. But I don't think it's long term.
Aye, but I mean, I suppose that it kind of fits in with us potentially being open down the flanks, so that you can understand he's probably going to want someone that's just going to do a shift, try and protect us a bit while he gets his system going. I mean, I was a wee bit flabbergasted that we didn't get more defenders in, and I think losing Virgil was obviously going to be a real risk. And I mean, he could have really thrown the sort of dummy out of the pram, and then we'd really be in a bit of trouble,
Well, Deila did say that the reason why we didn't sell him was because we didn't have enough time to buy a replacement.
But we'd had all summer,
Aye.
you know.
Aye,
You know.
but when he finally came out and said, "Look, he's going nowhere,"